Okay, so in this lecture we're going to talk about functions and curves. Okay, some basic curve tracing techniques, some basic techniques to solve problems on the basis of graphs, and some important functions. Clear? Domain range functions and all. So I guess it's best to start with greatest integer functions. So or let us start with modulus functions here. Modulus function. Okay, so what is modulus function? So suppose you have been given a function fx is equals to mod of x, which actually gives you the magnitude of x irrespective of sign. Clear? So fx equals to mod x can be actually broken down into a piecewise function as minus x when x is less than equals to 0 and x when x is greater than 0. Clear? So this way of representing, or these functions which have different values in different intervals, those functions are called piecewise functions. Clear? For example, signum function is a piecewise function. What is a signum function? Y is equals to is given a plus 1 when x greater than 0, minus 1 when x less than 0, and 0 when x equals to 0. Okay, so this is also written like this. Okay, let me write it in here. So signum function is also given as y is equals to mod x over x when x is not equal to 0 and 0 when x equals to 0. Here, this is the definition of signum function. Okay, this is also a piecewise function, different values in different intervals. Okay. Next, I guess we should talk about the greatest integer function. Okay, let us talk about some more on modulus function. Let us complete the modulus function portion first. So what is the domain of modulus function? So suppose f ranges from d to r. So the d actually belongs to all real numbers. Okay, d actually belongs to all real numbers. So you must write it like this: domain belongs to all real numbers, while the range belongs to basically from 0 to including 0 basically. So from 0 to infinity, this is the range of the modulus function. Talking about the properties of modulus function, you have if mod x is less than equals to a, then that implies mod x lies in this range. If mod x is greater than equals to a, then x is greater than equal to a, or x less than equals to minus a. Mod of x plus minus y is always less than equals to mod x plus mod y, and mod of x plus minus y is always greater than equals to mod of mod x minus mod y. This you can write this also this like this. This is the difference symbol. Difference symbol means that whichever will be greater in amongst these two, between these two, so that will be the other one will be subtracted. I mean, if you have a difference symbol between two numbers, always the smaller one will be subtracted from the greater one. Okay. Got it? So these are the properties of the modulus function. Clear? So the basic graph of modulus function is given like this. You can graph it on your own. Clear? One kink at x equals to 0, it is not differentiable at x equals to 0. Okay, not differentiable at x equals to 0, but continuous at x equals to 0. Okay, I guess you people know about continuity and differentiability, that if limit x tends to 0, f of x plus h minus f of x over h at some x does not exist at some x equals to a, let's say, does not exist, then f dash a does not exist. Clear? And if limit x 0, or let's say like this, a, okay, this won't be, this is h, okay, not x, this is h, this is h tends to 0, okay. And if x tends to a minus equals limit x tends to a plus equals fa, then fx is, or rather f, let's say f is continuous at x equals to a. Okay, for something to be differentiable it must be continuous, but if it is continuous it is not mandatory to be differentiable. Modulus function is an exact example of that. It is continuous at x equal to 0 but not differentiable at x equal to 0. Got it? Clear? Okay, so this limit must, for limit to exist, this condition must be satisfying. Okay, this is called left hand limit, this is called right hand limit. So right hand limit and left hand limit must be identical at some point. So the function, the limit of the function will exist at that point, and if it exists with the magnitude of the function at that particular point, then it will be continuous. Clear? Next we have the greatest integer function. Let's talk about greatest integer function. Clear? So greatest integer function. So greatest integer function is a very simple one. Achha, let us first understand what is the range of the, or what does the function actually do. So the function actually gives you the the greatest integer which is below that particular number. Suppose you have 2.13. so see, what are the integers below 2.13? You have from minus infinity it comes down to -3, -2, -1, 0, 1 and 2. So 2 is the greatest integer below 2.13. so this will be the greatest integer function, greatest integer function value for 2.13. it is given like box 2.13 is equals to 2. Okay, if you have some integer itself, box of 2 will be 2. Achha, box of minus 3.14, what will be this? This will be equals to -4. Okay, box of minus 3.14 will be equals to -4. Clear? Got it? The greatest integer below that. So when you move on below that, so you have -4 as the greatest integer below it. Clear? So basically these are the this is what greatest integer function actually does. So the greatest integer function value, you can arrange it in a table like this. So if this is x, this is your greatest integer function. So if x lies in this, so this is 0. If this is your x, it will be 1. If this is your x, then this will be 2, and so on. Clear? Greatest integer function. If you have a positive decimal, then the value will be the integer portion. If you have a negative decimal like this, then the value will be -1. I mean magnitudely 1 more than the integer portion, -4. Got it? Minus x point something, its box will be -4. Okay. Achha, box of -3 will be -3. Box of -3 will be -3. Clear? Got it? This is also called stepwise function. Achha, some basic properties of this function, let's see. Achha, first one is box of x equals to x if x belongs to integers. Box of x plus I is equals to box x plus I if I belongs to the set of integers. Box of x plus y is always greater than equals to box x plus box y. Achha, box of negative x is equals to negative box x if x belongs to integers. Our box of negative x equals to minus box x -1 if x belongs to rationals, or not rationals, it can also be real as well. So basically not belongs to integers. Okay, so these are some basic properties of the box function. Okay, its graphical representation is very simple. See it. So say this is 0, this is 1, this is 2. Okay, this is -1, -2. So the graph of this function actually lies like this. So from 0 to 1 it is this, then from 1 to 2, sorry, it here you have 1, clear. Then from 2 to 3 you have 2. Here you have -1 to 0, this is -1. Then you have -2 to -1, here you have -2. Clear? Got it? Okay. Acha. So one more thing, this will be pretty interesting to you. If you are given integration, say 0 to n box x dx, clear. If you are given an integration of this particular type, then what you need to do is that you need to first break it down into piecewise integrations. Okay, so this becomes 0 to 1 box x dx plus 0 to 2 box x dx, and so on till l minus 1 to n box x dx. Now you need to put the value of box x in this particular. So in this particular range, the value of box x will be 0. So this portion is omitted. Clear? In this portion it will be 1. So 1 to 2 dx plus you will have 2 to 3 2 dx plus 3 to 4 3 dx, and so on. Then you have n minus 1 to n minus 1 dx. Okay, I'm rubbing the above portion. So this integration actually comes out to be n times n minus 1 over 2. Reason being, this actually becomes 1 plus 2 till n minus 1, which is n into n minus 1 over 2. So whenever you will be given an integration 0 to n box x dx, you can directly put the formula n into n minus 1 over 2. Got it? Clear? Okay. You can also use area to find the integration of box x if you really want to do it in that way, or this is better, just putting the formula and getting the answer, that is better, right? Okay, fractional part function, this is also quite interesting. Fractional part function, fractional part function. So under fractional part function, what do you have? So basically, if you have some integers, so an integer is basically made up of its greatest integer function plus its fractional part function. Clear? Got it? Basically what happens is that fractional part function basically gives you the decimal portion. Okay, fractional part function basically gives you the decimal portion. Okay, so basically first let us understand what is the tabular form. So this is your x, this is your fractional part of x. So when x lies between 0 and 1 including 0, so it will be x 1 from, so this will be x minus 1, from 2 to 3 x minus 2, from say minus 2 to minus 1 it will be x plus 2, minus 1 0 x plus 1. Clear? So basically see, let me understand the tabular form. So suppose you have 3.14, so you just need 14, right? So box of 3.14 will be 3.14 minus 3, because you just need 0.14 and then you are done. Getting my point? Clear? This is the fractional part function case. I think you just need the decimal portion. You have some properties, very easy properties rather. Okay, so the first one is that fractional part of x will be equals to x if it lies in this range, x lies in this range. Second, you have fractional part of x equals to 0 if x belongs to integers. And third, you have fractional part of minus x is equals to 1 minus fractional part of x if x belongs to integers. Clear? Got it? Okay, let us understand its graph. Its graph is quite simple. So this is basically 1, because your fractional part cannot be more than 1, right? And its graph is something like this. So this is your basically 1, then from here 2, this is minus 1, this is minus 2, and so on. Okay, acha, if you are asked to find the integration of fractional part of x, say from 0 to 1, from 0 to n, what you will do is you can easily find the area under the curve. Okay, so these right triangle gives you the area, so find this area, and keep on finding this area till you reach n. Okay, so what is this area? This area is basically your half times, this is 1, this is 1, so half, so half plus half plus half up till n times. 0 to 1 1 half, 1 to 2 1 half. Okay, and it goes on till n. Clear? So n by 2 also you can write it like n by 2. Clear? Got it? Acha. Next you have least integer function, that is the opposite of the greatest integer function, nothing else. Simply opposite of greatest integer function. So least integer function is basically given like this. Least integer function. So it is written as like this, somewhere it is also written like this also. Okay, sometimes it is also written like this. So it is called the ceiling of x. What will it give you actually is that it will give you the least integer above the given number. So basically if you have 2.302, then this will be equals to 3. Okay, acha, minus 3.404 minus 3.404 will give you minus 3. Clear? Getting my point? Okay, so this is the part. Okay, so in float what we used to do is that we used to find the greatest integer, below that here we find the smallest integer, above that. Clear? Some basic properties are x is equals to x when x belongs to integers, x plus I is equals to this when I belongs to the set of integers. Clear? These two are the only properties you need to understand. Graphical representation says all. So it is exactly same, almost exactly same as that of greatest, just the equality changes, nothing else. Okay, the equality is here above, I mean the right side part has the equality. So basically this is 1, this is minus 1, then you have this is 1, then you have this is 2, this is minus 2. Getting it? This is the curve, nothing else. Things are quite simple. You can also find the area, integration using the method we used to find the greatest integer function process. Okay, so these were some important functions. Then you have the even and odd functions, right? Those are also very important. Even and odd functions. Odd functions are symmetrical integrations of odd functions are 0. Okay, odd. And symmetrical integrations of even function is 2 times the integration 0 to a fx dx. Clear? Always remember these things are quite important. You need to remember these, because sometimes what happens now, you are given a very much tough integration and you keep on trying the integration and you won't be able to find any answer, because it is you are being unable to do it in the correct way, but actually you are missing the main point of giving the question is that the function is actually maybe an even function or basically an odd function rather, and you have been given a symmetric so so let's solve a problem now and understand the concept of how can we solve problems using graphs. Okay, so let's check the number of solutions game. Okay, number of solutions games are quite easy to do. Say we are asked that find the number of solutions of e to the power x equals to x to the power 4. Okay, now if you are gonna put values of x and trying finding, you won't be able to do so. Okay, so to find this particular thing you need to understand how the graph process. So you can easily graph e to the power x like this, and x to the power 4 looks something like this. Clear? X to the power 4 looks something like this. So basically you are having two particular intersecting points. One is this one, one is this one. So this will have two solutions. This graphing theory is also important in set theory. Okay, if you suppose you have been given two sets, let's say A belongs to X such that let's say it is like this. Say this is equals to say xy pairs such that y is equals to 1 over x, and B is equals to say xy pairs such that y is equals to tan x. Let's say you are asked to find A intersecting B. So how to find A intersecting B? Use graph theory. So you will graph both the given functions. Okay, so 1 over x has a graph like this. Okay, hyperbolic kind of, and tan x has a graph like this. Clear? Tan x has a graph like this. Getting my point? Okay, so in this way you can find out the problems. Basically you can understand the intersecting point. The intersecting points will basically give you, say here the intersecting points will give you the intersecting A intersecting B solutions. Got it? So graphing is important. You can also find you can also solve differentiability and continuity problems using graph theory. For example, suppose you have been given a question, say you are given fx is equals to mod of x plus mod of x minus 2. Clear? So you can break this into piecewise functions. For example, it becomes minus 2x plus 2 when x is less than equals to 0. It becomes 2 when x is when x belongs to this particular interval, and it becomes to 2x minus 2 when x is greater than equal to 0. Clear? So see, you can graph each of these portions, right? You can graph fx using each of these piecewise values. So in the way, so see this is basically a graph which looks like this. This is say your y equals to 2. From here you have, so this is your y equals to 2 line. Clear? And below you have here x equals to 2. Let's say from x equals to 2 what you are having, from x equals to 2 you are having a graph like this. Clear? This is y equals to 2x minus 2, because it will have an if you extend this backwards, so you will have this intersecting at y equals to minus 2. Clear? Now see, if you are asked to find say f-1, so f-1 you can easily find it. See, so x equals to 1 is this point. So basically at x equal to 1 you have no disturbance or kink, that is no breaking point, or rather any rough area in the curve is smooth at x equals to 1. You can, so f-1 will easily exist, because differentiation actually at a point if you have a kink or a rough point, breaking point rather, like these points, these are called breaking points or kinks. So if you have a kink, then it won't be differentiable at that point. There is no such kink at x equals to 1. It will be differentiable, its value will be 0, because the function is parallel to x axis. but f dash 2 won't exist because you have a kink at x equals to 2. But if you are gonna use the basic rules of calculus by trying and proving whether the limit exists or not, it will take huge time. So graphing is important. Plus you have concavity you have maxima minima also in your exam, right? Maxima minima concepts. So maxima minima concepts are also very important in calculus. They are also used in graphings. Clear? Monotonicity, maxima minima, domain range concepts, these things are important. Symmetric things are also important. Basically graphs can help you do many things. When you will be doing the area integration, or I mean area using integration, or the converse of that, whatever it be, at that point also you will be needing graphing the most, because if you draw a wrong curve or a wrong graph, then you won't be able to find the area. You are often asked to find parabola areas, parabola intersecting portions, parabola, then you can have circle parabola, circle, then other curves also, mod function, you can have mod and say circle, mod and circle will be looking something like this. This is the mod function, this is the circle. For example, if you don't know that what is the y square equals to 4x, basically the video got suddenly stopped, so I had to cut and start again. So basically if you don't know that y square equals to 4ax has a parabolic curve like this, and x square equals to 4ay has a parabolic curve like this, then you won't be able to find the areas in between these two, right? So these things are important. Then you have one more thing under curves, which is shift. So basically f of x, with the help of f of x you can graph f of x plus minus a rather. Basically suppose you have x square, y is equals to x square graph. So using this you can find y is equals to x minus 2 whole square, y equals to x plus 3 whole square. What happens is that just the curve gets shifted a bit. So when x equals to, see here at x equals to 2, y becomes 0. Okay, so the curve will shift to x equals to 2. Okay, here at x equals to minus 3, y becomes 0, so the curve will shift to x equals to minus 3. Clear? Will shift to x equals to minus 3. Similarly you can also use the shifting property to find fx plus minus a. Okay, so we can do it here only. So see, so if y equals to x square minus 2, then see at y equals to minus 2, x square becomes 0. Okay, so y equals to minus 2 is, so the curve will get shifted to y equals to minus 2. Okay, and if it was x square plus 3, then it will move above to y is equals to plus 3. Got it? So shifts are also important. A graph is basically required in almost every place, because you need graphs. Actually intersecting things you can do using graphs. Okay, or basically some problems require graphs. You cannot do some problems without graphs. For example, the whole topic of area under integration lies on the basic sense of graphing. If you don't know graphing, you won't be able to find the intersecting points actually. So these things are important. Basically. So graphing is important. Do check graphing things and go through functions a lot, because functions often give you some good quality questions. So also check the domain and range concepts. So what is domain? Domain is nothing but all the values of x which satisfy the function. For example, suppose you have y is equals to a minus x over a plus x. Okay, so here carefully notice that for any x belongs to R, this function satisfies. Okay, so the domain will be R. Now how to find the range? Basically find the inverse function and find the domain of the inverse function. The domain of the inverse function will be the range of the function. Clear? Always remember this. See, basically why this happens is that I'm telling you the reason behind this also. See, if you have a function from D to R, its inverse function lies from R to D, where R is the range. Okay, I'm not talking about codomain, I'm talking about range. Range is a subset of codomain. Clear? You know, if you have this as a domain and this as the codomain, if this is your codomain and this is your domain, then it is not mandatory for all the values in the domain to match with or to map to every value of codomain. There can be some values of codomain which are not mapped, or which are not actually images of the function. So, but all the values which are the images, they constitute the range. So range is a subset of codomain. So I'm talking about range here, not codomain. So basically the range is the domain of the inverse function. So basically find the inverse of the function and check the domain. If the inverse does not exist, okay, then there is a glitch, but inverse must exist, should exist, or as I was saying, I mean, at this moment, you know, whatever function you will be given to find the range of the domain, you will be able to find the inverse function. Clear? So find the inverse function and check the domain of the inverse function, and that will be your range of the function. Clear? So these things please keep in mind. You will be able to do it. Also, you know, you have some good inequalities. For example, your AM greater than equals to GM greater than equals to HM. This is very much important. Okay, for example, you have the trigonometric inequalities, that is sin x is always less than equals to 1, and here minus 1. Okay, AM greater than equal to GM greater than equal to HM is very, very important. This thing is one of the most important, you know, operations which you can be, which will be of great help to you while solving the paper. So don't forget these things. Clear? Under calculus, you will be able to solve problems quite easily. I won't think it will be much difficult to you. You know, just go through the different types of integration, you know, and remember the formulas which you have. You know, for example, for integration 1 over x square plus a square dx, then you have the integration root over of x square plus a square dx. These integrations, do remember the formulas, because you can be able to directly put the formula as an answer. Okay, substitution is, you know, practice integrations a lot. And differential equation, you know, those things are quite very interesting to solve. Homogeneous ones, you know, several linear differential portions. Okay, by separating the portions, by substituting variables. Differential equation is also very important. So I guess it won't be difficult for you guys to solve the JEE paper if you are prepared properly. So this lecture was only about graphing, some basic tips on graphing. So I guess it will help you. So I'm trying to bring some more concepts for JEE main within the 4 sessions. So I'll meet you guys in the next lecture.